everyone. Welcome to another bonus episode of Feminism, Fascism, and the Future. This is Lori Essig, and today I'm going to explain why are they so weird. By now, we all know Trump and Vance are weird. They're weird has even become the most powerful slogan of the Democratic Party, thanks to vice presidential candidate and everybody's Midwestern dad, Tim Walz.
These guys are just weird. And you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club or something. That's what they go at. That's not what people are interested in. Oh, there's something wrong with people when they talk about freedom, freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read. That stuff is weird. They come across weird. They seem obsessed with this.
The fascists depend on fear. The fascists depend on us going back. But we're not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
After all, J.D. Vance secretly wears eyeliner, is rumored to watch dolphin porn, and is considered such a weirdo that a completely unsubstantiated claim about a sexual relationship with a couch just won't go away. And Trump? Well, Trump is a bright orange elderly man with a comb-over who has been known to hug American flags, grab women by the pussies, and generally act a bit kooky. But the real reason Trump, Vance, and most of the GOP seem so weird is because they say things that are, in fact, pretty normal in the global anti-gender movement, as listeners of this podcast already know. The anti-trans, anti-abortion rhetoric is pretty similar to what people like Viktor Orban of Hungary or Vladimir Putin of Russia say. Within the anti-gender movement, any possibility that sex is not a fixed and clear binary is a threat to civilization. And by civilization, they mean patriarchy. After all, if men and women are not innately different, if bodies are messy and women and girls can control their own bodies, how will patriarchy survive? That's why J.D. Vance doubled down when an older interview resurfaced of him calling Dems a bunch of childless cat ladies.
Basically saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
What could be more dangerous than women not fulfilling their supposedly natural roles as wives and mothers? As Vladimir Putin said on International Women's Day this year, quote, "You, dear women, are capable of changing the world with your beauty, wisdom, and generosity of spirit, but mostly thanks to your greatest gift that nature gave you, giving birth to children. Motherhood is an amazing preordination of women," end quote. Both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance show affection for Vladimir Putin in a variety of ways, including opposing U.S. support for Ukraine. Vance has gone one step further than brother Putin and not only praises women who give birth, but has even suggested that people with children should get extra votes in elections.
Give votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children. Children are the future of this country, and yet the parents who have them actually have no advantage in our democratic process. They have a smaller voice in some ways than the people who don't have any children at all. When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Now, people will say, and I'm sure the Atlantic and the Washington Post and all the usual suspects will criticize me about this in the coming days. Well, doesn't this mean that non-parents don't have as much of a voice as parents? Doesn't this mean that parents get a bigger say in how our democracy functions? Yes, absolutely.
And here's Vance calling people without children sociopathic.
Basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less mentally stable.
And of course, Vance wants to force women and girls to become mothers whether they want to or not. Vance opposes abortion even in cases of rape or incest. As our listeners know, within the anti-gender movement, not letting pregnant people control their own bodies is pretty normal. Here's anti-gender ideologue Pope Francis on whether women who have been raped should have access to abortion.
Whether he is in favor of abortion in the case of rape, Pope Francis responded with another question, asking whether it is lawful to eliminate a living being in order to solve a problem.
Vance fits squarely into this global, far-right, and yes, often fascistic political and religious movement. This is what Judith Butler calls a restoration project. The project is to restore patriarchy and the racial order and engage in the feverish dream that all those who do not fit can be made to disappear. Here's Trump in a feverish dream that his administration will make trans children disappear.
Left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this?
Trump wants to do this even though research shows that gender-affirming care helps trans kids. The Health and Human Services Department looked at this research to conclude that, quote, medical gender-affirming healthcare practices have been demonstrated to yield lower rates of adverse mental health outcomes, build self-esteem, and improve overall quality of life for transgender and gender-diverse youth, end quote. But facts don't matter to Trump, and that's particularly true for facts about gender. And conspiracy is always better than facts. Here's Trump spreading the conspiracy theory that trans identity was invented by Big Pharma in order to make money off of innocent children.
The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use.
And here's Trump explaining about how he will have his Department of Education demand that all teachers instruct children on the innate differences between men and women.
Our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure Trump, Vance, and other leaders of the GOP are that weird. If by weird we mean not like other people. I mean, Robert Kennedy Jr. is definitely weird. Who the hell leaves a bear cub carcass in Central Park? But Trump, Vance, Ron DeSantis, and all the Republican anti-gender warriors are exactly like their anti-gender comrades around the world. Orban, Putin, Giorgia Meloni, Jair Bolsonaro, and yes, the Pope. They're saying things that a lot of people believe. Gender is dangerous. Any lessening of patriarchal control over women and other feminized bodies is a grave threat to humanity. And we need governments and leaders willing to force these ideas on the entire population. The anti-gender movement isn't a fringe movement. It's the ruling ideology of various governments and political parties, including the GOP. That's why Vance and Trump aren't actually weird. Things that are weird do not necessarily scare us. After all, in Vermont, where we live, there are T-shirts saying, "Keep Vermont weird." But things that are creepy, like poisonous spiders and snakes, could actually kill us. And Trump and Vance are creepy AF. On the day Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States, I stood outside the White House with thousands of other protesters chanting, "He's so creepy. He's so creepy." And if Trump was creepy alone, He's a million times more creepy with Vance and the other anti-gender leaders of the GOP. That's why, here at Feminism, Fascism, the Future, we are scared, because these deeply patriarchal sentiments of the anti-gender movement also coincide with deeply anti-democratic ones, where childless cat ladies and drag queens and all the rest of us who are not like them are denied full citizenship rights, and possibly even made to disappear. If that sounds a bit like fascism, well, that's because it definitely is a fascist tendency to imagine the nation as being made up of only a certain sort of person. In the case of the GOP, Christian, preferably white, most definitely not trans or genderqueer. And that's why we're working on another bonus episode called, But Is It Fascism? In that episode, we will consider whether the anti-gender movement is fascistic or just fascist adjacent. And that should be coming to you soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed this bonus episode on why Trump and Vance are really and truly creepy, but maybe not all that weird. Thanks to all who made it happen and happen quickly. Harper, El Fahy, Allison Seeger, and Julian Seeger-Reed. Please follow us, like us, send our episodes to friends, family, and particularly your enemies.